It's Friday, my dear friends, and this is Texans Training Camp Live presented by Xfinity. My name's Drew Doherty with my good pal DP Sidhu. We will be here with you for the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even close to an hour, showing you the only look live at Texans Training Camp practice. You're not going to get it anywhere else. It's really hot. It's like 90-some degrees. Doesn't matter to Deshaun Watson there in the number 4 red jersey with sweatpants on and long sleeves. DP, he's tougher than me. How are you today?
I'm good. Don't you feel like stretching when you see them out there? Although I'd much rather do it indoors and not in a hoodie and sweatpants. Looks like guys are not in full pads today. They get a little break. They get a break off tomorrow. So this is really your last practice that you see before Sunday. And then we're going to wrap up this week. It seems like they've been in full pads so much, so it's probably nice for them to have a little day without the full pads on. But we heard from Bill O'Brien a little bit earlier this morning. We're going to get into some of his key topics in this morning's press conference. And, of course, John Harris, as always, is going to break down what he sees out there live on the practice field right now out at the Houston Methodist Training Center.
Yes, we will. We will talk to John Harrison, like you mentioned. O'Brien had a few things to say, a few key things to say, but also we're going to take a look at your deep slant interview with Peter Kalambayi. Pound for pound, one of the most interesting Houston Texans of all time. I'll say that. In Texans history. This guy has big things ahead of him, both in his football career and his post-football career. But we're talking and focusing on football today. And we're also going to have a top 100 by the NFL Network on number 4, Deshaun Watson. It's going to be a fun one. So we've got a lot to get to. We will also, as we do every day, take your questions. So send them on in. Doesn't matter where you're from. If you're from Ireland, if you're from Ulaanbaatar, Outer Mongolia, we want to hear from you. Please let us know where you're sending in those questions from, and we'll do our darndest to answer as many of them as we possibly can. We got JJ from Bradford in the United Kingdom. JJ, good to talk with you. You're not JJ Watt. He's out on a side field today, not practicing with the whole group. He's on a different ramp-up schedule. Don't worry. You don't want him ready for, what's today, Friday, August 21st. You want him ready for September 10th and Thursday Night Football as we take a look there at Kenny Stills, number 12. Kenny Stills is a very important member of this wide receiver core. We talked about him a lot yesterday, DP. Number 31 there, David Johnson, has had an impressive camp so far. If you listen to John Harris and the stuff he's told us, DP, big things possible from the running back who the Texans acquired over the offseason.
Yeah, he definitely looks the part here in training camp. You hope that you see that translate into the regular season. What really got me excited was hearing from Darren Fells yesterday, and he had worked with David Johnson when they were both rookies in Arizona, and he had a lot of nice things to say about what he's able to bring to the run game, to the passing game, to the receiving game. And David Johnson just really impressing out there already. And the O-line, I think, does not get enough credit because we sort of checked them off of our list as the 5 starters returning. But I think that that entire offensive unit is really starting to click. And in about a week from now, they'll be out doing scrimmages.
I can't wait for that.
That will be a true test. Without these preseason games, that's really the only way to see what your offense is out there. But so far, looking good. See Duke Johnson out there as well, and the Johnson & Johnson brothers. I mean, I feel like people are going to have a lot of fun with these radio calls and TV calls this season.
Yeah, they look different as far as height and body make, but they are very similar backs in what they do as far as catching the ball, running between the tackles and whatnot. And you bring up the scrimmages. Important to see what you got on the field and the personnel and everything. They're also pretty important for the coaching staff as far as just procedure, getting plays in, getting guys ready to enter the game, communication, all that stuff. So we'll see them ironing out kinks in that form as well as you take a look there at number 25, Duke Johnson. We said we'd take your questions, and we're going to do that right now. Joshua from Pasadena wants to know how is Deshaun Watson doing in practice. And if you listen to everything that he said, everything that Bill O'Brien has said, Joshua, he's doing great. He has a total and complete command of this offense. He is getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker than he has in years past. That's been one of the few knocks on his game, is that he holds on to the ball too long and, exposes himself to pressure, to hits and whatnot. Supposedly that's been going down this August. And DP, everything you hear is great. And when that's the case, good things are going to happen for this football team. You're going to be in the playoff hunt and the Super Bowl hunt if that guy's continuing to improve from what you've seen from him in the previous 2 Pro Bowl seasons.
Yeah, year 4 for Deshaun Watson. I think every year, of course, we've seen that growth from him. He's had a better grasp of the offense. He's recognizing more defensive coverages. I think now with the offensive line in place, he's got his chemistry happening with the receivers, even the new receivers that have showed up to camp. He's developed quite a nice chemistry with them so far, worked with some of them in the offseason, like Kenny Stills and even Austin, the undrafted kid, number 17.
Oh, yeah, Austin Coulter, yeah. It should be Chad Hansen. Austin, what are you talking about? It's Chad Hansen.
Chad Hansen.
He's been around a couple years now.
That was a different undrafted, Chad Hansen. But he's been working on his with his chemistry with the receivers in camp. Yesterday, Fells even said he's just so phenomenal. He doesn't make a mistake twice. If he misses a pass one day in practice, you will not see him miss a pass again until the next day. He never has those mistakes, and I think that's really important to note. Bill O'Brien even talked about that this morning, that in game time situations, how that's so valuable. In between series, if Deshaun sees something, he's able to process that and not make that same mistake, or recognize when the same coverage pops up again, and he can have that conversation with O'Brien on the field. His understanding, his fundamental understanding of the game is just so much more advanced. We know we've talked about his chess that he's played in the offseason to help his brain develop with the playbook, but I think all signs definitely pointing up for Deshaun Watson. He's got his receivers. Everyone just needs to stay healthy. I think that's going to be the big key for 2020. And every time I see him in those sweats and the sweatshirt, I'm like sweating.
He's making it look like it's November out there.
Making it look easy. It's
and
hot outside.
I like how the both of us just made up people on the air here. You had Austin. I was like, oh yeah, Austin Coulter.
Austin Coulter.
Who the heck is Austin Coulter? You're bringing up Chad Hansen though. He got drafted in the mid rounds a few years back by the Jets. Texans picked him up before last training camp, in the last offseason. He was a practice squatter here last year for the regular season, but he's been traveling around and throwing in the offseason leading up to camp with Deshaun Watson. He was out there, with Cooks and with David Johnson in Arizona when those guys were working out a month or so ago. And fun note about Chad Hansen, Joe Webb, who was with the Texans a few years back, he said Chad had the best hair on the team this time last year. I was like, who's got the best hair on the team? And he said, Chad, that's who he's going with. So,
Alex Magoo is going to give him a run for his money, though,
Magoo
this year,
he's the third quarterback on the roster. He has bleached, bottle bleach blonde hair right now, and it's very, very long. Matthew has a question, and Matthew wants to know, what do you project for David Johnson's rushing and receiving stats this season? Projections are tough because it's going to always involve health with David Johnson. If he's healthy, you're looking at, I think, 1,500 yards combined at least, because he's such a weapon. He can do so many things. And I think that number could go up, but he's got to be healthy. And I do think the Texans are going to incorporate him into this offense and feed him the rock as much as they possibly can because of what he can do and what they think he's capable of doing.
I mean, I like that number, Drew. I like that a lot. I feel like someone's trying to get some fantasy insight from you here.
And that's what we're here for, yeah.
But you know what? We'll do that for you, too. I'm not great at projecting numbers, but I do think that it's going to be over 1,000. I mean, I'm being overly conservative here, but I just don't know what the mix of runs versus passes is going to be with David Johnson. I feel like we hear that he can do both. I just feel like he's going to be running the rock a lot more, and Duke is going to be catching passes out of the backfield. That's just my gut. I base that on nothing other than the fact that this is kind of what happened last year with Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. We thought Carlos would do both. Carlos was running the ball, and Duke was catching passes out of the backfield. But, of course, they're going to mix it up. They're not going to make it look the same every single week on every single formation. But I think when it's all said and done, when you see the forest through the trees, David Johnson's going to be your solid back that's running.
Yeah, you see the duo there, the Johnson duo. You also see Aaron Reese from The Athletic. He's a good writer. He's doing nice work. He's
hanging
in
out
the
there
camera shot. We like Aaron. But that duo, you see them messing around with each other and kind of having a good time. It's practice. It's August. It's fun to know their backstory and their history together. They came into the NFL the same year. So what that means is at the Combine, you're grouped by position group, and then within your position group, you're grouped alphabetically. So they're both last name Johnson. They're both first names start with a D. So they were next to each other all through the drills, all through the interviews, all through all that stuff. So they got to know each other pretty well. They got to strike up a kinship. And you and I were talking about it the other day, and we heard Duke say it the other day. Yeah, I'm not surprised by anything David Johnson has done, none of the success he's had. And when you talk to David Johnson, conversely, and tell him what Duke has said about him, it's like, yeah, I love that guy. He's awesome. I've followed him. I've kept apprised of his career. It's awesome that we're on the same team together because we're so very similar and can do many of the same things, and we're going to really present matchup problems and put defenses at a disadvantage. It's cool to see that off-the-field kinship, too.
Yeah, I think that happens anytime you've got two guys that come out in the same draft class, especially at the same position group. Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, I mean, that friendship from their draft class is carried on through the years. They're obviously following each other's careers, and I think the same can be said for the Johnsons, and I think they're really excited to be able to be on the field together because they know each other's strengths. They know what the other is able to do. And I think for David Johnson, more than anything, it's a fresh start for him because his career was so red hot in Arizona, and then it cooled off so quickly. That talent is still there. You know, what he's able to do on the field. He's healthy, and, you know, we talk about veteran rest days and guys ramping up. I have to say, I feel like I've seen David Johnson on the field every single day since camp has started. So to me, that bodes well that he is healthy. He looks healthy. I think if there was any worry or any sort of, apprehension on the part of the coaching staff to preserve him, he would have sat out some practices. But he's not. He's been out there every single day. So I think health-wise, he looks good. If he can get back to the form that he showed us back in his rookie and his second years, I mean, that's just money in the bank for the Texans.
It sure is. And those Johnsons catching passes right now from running backs coach Danny Barrett. He was a CFL quarterback back in the 80s and 90s, an excellent CFL quarterback, and now he's a good running backs coach for the Houston Texans, a fun guy to talk with. So those two, part of many, many weapons for Deshaun Watson in 2020. And speaking of Deshaun, why don't we kick it now to the NFL Network's Top 100 feature on him. This is Deshaun Watson.
In his third year, Deshaun Watson continued to establish himself as one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL.
He's got the pylon, he's in.
I think he came in with Patrick Mahomes, and to me, he's making the same kind of splash for his team that Patrick Mahomes is. Without him on it, that team don't go as far.
Deshaun wants to run across the 5. Watson runs in for the touchdown.
Hey, gang, keep doing your thing, man. Good luck this year, bro.
I think the best thing he does is elude people. We had him like third down. 2 people grabbed him, he slips underneath one and throws it to the tight end the other way, and he goes and scores.
Touchdown!
Watson's escapability also led him to 7 rushing touchdowns in 2019.
Watson cutting inside 10, the 5, still going down to the goal line. Touchdown!
Boy, he's carrying 3 bills to the end zone.
He can beat you with his arm, he can beat you with his legs, or you saw against the Patriots, he can even catch the rock.
Hands off to Johnson, now to hop right side, who flips the ball to Watson, diving for the pylon, and he's got it! Razzle-dazzle! Touchdown, Houston!
You talk about the play where he got kicked in the face.
I saw him get kicked, and I saw him fix his eye.
Deshaun calls for the ball, here's the snap. He does to the right, throws to the end zone, caught by Fells! Magical!
You know, he's feeling to see if his eye's there. And he still throws a rocket right into the receiver's chest.
With a swollen left eye, Deshaun Watson has put on an incredible performance here.
I'm sorry about your eye, bro. It's leaking right now, too. You might wipe it off. Yeah.
You love competing against guys like that because you know they're going to bring the best out of you.
Watson's best came out in the playoffs as he led his team back from a 16-point deficit.
And Watson throws it to Jones. Cutting inside 40, 35-30, the 25-20, 15, and down to the 10-yard line. The magician does it again. The Texans in field goal range. And Watson, another amazing play. We just saw one of the greatest plays in the history of this franchise.
That's how you beat great, brother.
When it's all said and done, he's going to be one of the faces of this league for a long time. He's going to continue to get better and be a problem for anybody he ever plays.
Love that guitar playing by Deshaun Watson. my sons do the guitar playing, and when my 5-year-old Oliver plays, it looks like he's having a convulsion of sorts. I don't think he's going to be a guitar player when he grows up. But
he was shouting out the Rock Boys. The outside linebackers actually started the guitar moves, and they were super pumped when Deshaun got in on the action. So I don't know what the celebrations are going to be this year, but they always come up with some fun and entertaining things.
They sure do. Those are good stuff. We want to thank you all for watching. Thank you all for sending in these questions. We've got one from Cecilia in Sweden. She was giving us a shout out. But we also got a question from Nate. He's asking this question from Humble. He says, can you tell a difference in the overall team speed this training camp? Yes, they're faster. I mean, you start with the wide receiver core. This is a faster team in that regard. And then when you look at the defensive line, front seven, you've added names like Renard, like Ross Blacklock. Martin's now in the fold after not being in training camp last year, so there's more team speed for sure all around. I think at the safety spot, Eric Murray, Justin Reed, they're faster as well. Jalen Watkins, a guy you've talked with. So, yes, on the whole, Nate, faster are the Texans.
I think all the offenses in the league are getting faster, and the defenses are all compensating. We've sort of seen that trend. We talked with John Harris about it yesterday, about the D-lines, what they're looking like. The guys are not as big and thick as they used to be, a little bit lighter, a little bit faster on their feet. And same thing with the offenses. You know, the quarterbacks are all mobile quarterbacks. They're sort of trending in that direction. So you need defenses to keep up with them. And this wide receiver group, we've seen what Will Fuller can do for the offense when he's out on the field. Bill O'Brien talked about it today. He was asked what Will does. Well, we know he does the go route, the deep routes, but whether or not we would see more of Will Fuller in the intermediate route. And he said, his route tree is very, very complex.
Yeah.
He's a very good route runner. This is something we've known about Will over the years. He's a hard worker. He's perfected that route tree. So there's a lot of different things he can do. He can catch passes out of the slot. He can go intermediate. He can go long. He can go outside. It'll be exciting to see what Will Fuller can do.
Raphael has a very good question. It's very specific, and we like this, Raphael. From what you've seen in practice, is Blacklock taking reps with the first team? And is he only a nose tackle, or is he moving around? He, like a lot of these players, is moving all around. You might see him play some nose tackle, but he's going to be all over the place. And as far as first-team reps, at times, yes. I don't know that he's going to start on opening day, but yeah, it's been a fluid situation. He's going to get some action, bottom line. Might not be as a starter, might be, and might be at nose tackle, might not, but he's going to play all over the place. And that's one of the hallmarks I think we're going to see out of Anthony Weaver's defense. Number 90, Ross Blacklock. Another great number 90, you think. Here in Texans history, we've seen Jadeveon Clowney wear it, Mario Williams before him. So Blacklock, DP, is set to line up probably on the interior of the defensive line for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know about first team and second team reps. I know in the past that Bill O'Brien liked to mix up the ones and the twos so that everyone had a chance to work with different player groups. But I think for rookies out here, it's a little bit tougher. I mean, they're sort of fighting for their job. They're getting acclimated. And these reps are so valuable right now. There's only so many reps that you can run in full pads and with the full team. So I think whatever opportunity he does get with the first team, if he gets opportunities with the first team, he's got to make the most of it. But from everything we've heard so far from defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver and from the coaching staff, they like his versatility. They like his size. The way he's able to move at the size he is really big out there on the field. And and he's limber and he's fast as well. So he's going to be a versatile guy they can use in a number of different ways. He's really going to add to this pass rush. But, you know, I think for this year, it might be his chance to get on the field might be through somebody else being injured, you know, or something like that. Or maybe he fights someone out for a roster spot. I think it's going to be a while before he makes it on the field, but when he does, I think he's going to definitely be a force to watch.
Yes, he will. John Harris has had a lot of good stuff to say about him, and now John Harris is someone we're going to talk with because he's out at practice. And John, what's going on, my friend? You doing all right today?
I am doing okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
On a practice, not a full pad's probably. Well, listen, I got to ask that nowadays in the COVID world. You got to make sure everybody's connected in Zoom meetings, and I've got 2 phones in my pocket, headphones and earbuds in my ears, and microphones all over the place. So I have no idea how you guys are hearing me, but I'm just glad that you are. But yeah, they're just they're in shells today. They've been in pads pretty much every day that we've been able to see. So this is kind of the first one without pads. They're in helmet and shells today. And whenever I was a player, it was like, oh yeah, no pads. But then I used to think, no pads. that means we're going to do a bunch of cerebral. You got to know all the checks. You got to know all the adjustments. We're going to be this is not going to be a fun practice. And that's what I think this is going to be. It might be a fun practice, but it's going to be a lot of knowledge-based. Hey, what about this? It's going to be a lot of situational-based. I looked up on a scoreboard a little while ago, and they were kind of cycling through some of the situational work that they'll do today. And in fact, that's what they're doing right now. They're working on kind of an end-game situational sort of thing. So that's kind of the focus, especially the last probably 2-3 days, to make sure that situations that could arise during a game, the Texans are discussing those and working on those here in practice.
Johnny, we got a question about team reps. I know in the past, Bill O'Brien liked to mix the ones and the twos. Sometimes he'd give first teamers reps with the second team's reps with the first, third team, he'd mix them in there. But now with the situation that we're in this season with no off-season workout program, no preseason games, do you still see that trend, or are they really just keeping the reps to the first team separate from the rookies and so on and so forth?
No, I mean, they'll mix it up. I mean, they sort of have to. It depends on, how they have ramped up practice, what players are ramping up at that particular moment, what players are getting an off day or a rest day or just a workout day off to the side. I mean, I think all of that kind of plays a role. So there have been days where, not all the receivers have been out there. So Chad Hansen and Stevie Mitchell get a lot of reps at the outside spots. There have been days defensively where some of the defensive linemen get different reps and such. And that's going to be something that happens, during a game too. You might go for a little while and, guy's chin strap gets busted. He's got to come over the sideline and get it fixed. Guys got to go in. So, I mean, it's kind of good practice for all that. But look, the Texans are definitely not alone in this situation. 31 other teams are wondering how to navigate this whole season. And I just saw today, Tad Dickman, who is the PR wizard down in Jacksonville, tweeted out that 18 players of the Jags wouldn't be practicing today, that they're on quote-unquote maintenance plans, and it included rookies on that plan as well. So, a lot of teams are trying to figure out this whole rep thing. Who's healthy enough to take a certain amount of reps? If a guy is healthy enough, how many reps should he get? All that is really kind of playing a role as we start to really get ready for September 10th.
First team offense coming back out on the field. A.J. McCarron and the crew had been out there a moment ago, but Deshaun Watson out there personnel-wise with guys like 88, Jordan Akins, who we heard earlier this morning from Bill O'Brien is having a nice camp, number 18 too. Randall Cobb there in the slot. Different looking weapons at spots as Akins catches a pass, but we've seen that. That was a familiar sight last year. Akins actually led the tight end crew in yards gained as a receiver through the air. Jordan Akins doesn't get a lot of publicity too much, but he's a guy that has been very, very important on this team, John.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, yesterday was a great example of that. It was more scrimmage and situational based yesterday. And Deshaun Watson was looking for Jordan Akins. I mean, he wanted to throw to 88. And, teams have a decision to make when they play the Texans, especially as you see this lineup now with Cobb, Cooks, and Stills out there right now. How do you cover all those guys? And you only got enough cover guys to cover those three, then who's going to cover Jordan Akins? And I think Deshaun knows that. And now in his third year, I think Jordan is really coming to his own. Look, he led the tight ends in receiving receptions last year. Fells had more touchdowns, but Akins is a guy that Deshaun likes going to. He really wants the ball in his hands. He loves it. He made a couple of great touchdown catches yesterday. One of my favorite plays of the day. And we talked about this yesterday. One of the things I like about a scrimmage is you tackle, no pun intended, all the different little things. And Ake caught a ball about the 5-yard line, and he kind of had to lay out for it. He didn't full out dive, but he had to, to a point where he had to really extend for the ball, and he went to the ground. And the defensive backs, I saw them, they all just kind of pulled up and stopped. Akins rolled over once, popped right up and got in the end zone. All the offensive players on my side were like, they got to touch him down. They got to touch him down. Well, that's the kind of thing that in your third year as a pass catcher, hey, look, I went down, nobody touched me. I'm going to get up and go make a play. And Jordan Akins has made plenty of plays here lately.
Johnny, in a smooth-looking visor out there, number 31, David Johnson. I feel like he has been out there every single day that we've been covering practice. Is there anything you can read into the fact that he's not one of those players getting a rest day right now? Is it because he needs the time? You would think as a veteran like himself, he'd be out getting some rest days as well. But I think it's a good sign that David Johnson's healthy enough to be out there every single day. What do you make of it?
Yeah, think, DB, it's interesting. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. I think it's just a thing, to be honest. I mean, the fact that he's ready to go, when they did that scrimmage yesterday, David didn't get a ton of time. He had, I think, the first team drill 11-on-11, and then he didn't go back in. Then it was pretty much Duke Johnson for a little bit, and it was Cron Higdon and Buddy Howell the rest of the time. So, I think it's just a different day that, you'll see some guys and you won't see some guys. I think the coaching staff, Bill O'Brien, Jack Easterby, et cetera, all of them sat down with Roland Ramirez, Mike Eubanks, medical staff, training staff, and they said, okay, this is how we want to do this. Look, we got to have all these guys ready to go September 10th. And I think about it like swimming with swimmers. Swimmers are pretty interesting because their morning workouts are just hellacious. But they know that they've got a particular meet coming up at some point. They start to taper down to that meet such that maybe the day or two before they just completely stop swimming, and then they pack on some calories so that they can burn while they're swimming to meet. They've got a really kind of scientific strategy about how they go about getting ready for meets, and I saw that when I lived in the dorms with them in Jacksonville, with a place that had a bunch of Olympian swimmers, and I talked to them a lot and picked their brain a lot about that. And I think that's kind of the approach here. Look, we don't need them to be ready for a preseason game. We don't need them to be ready for practice 8. We need them to be ready 7:30 Central Time when we kick off against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. And so I think that's the philosophy. Now, David's been available every single practice. That's great, and I hope it continues. But I don't want it to be a sign one way or the other, like, oh, he sat out 4 or 5 practices in a row. Oh, man, that's a bad – it's just right now what it is just a sign. That's all it is, because they're all getting ready. They're trying to get ready for September 10th.
And, John, that leads perfectly into a question we got from one of our viewers. Ryan had this one, and it's perfect. What are your thoughts going into Kansas City? You just brought up tapering, and for the record, I knew about tapering back when I was a cross-country runner about 45 pounds ago in the mid-90s. So anyhow, but what are your thoughts? We're less than 3 weeks into the regular season being away, and Kansas City is looming on Thursday Night Football, September 10th, John.
Yeah, I mean, as with any opening to the season, you're excited about it. It's so different from anything we've ever seen and will see. So you look at Arrowhead Stadium and go, apparently they're going to have fans. I don't know. We'll see when we get to September 10th whether that's going to be the case. But for right now, we're planning on putting 20 to 25% fans in there, which is going to be kind of weird because you see Arrowhead. Especially this game, that place would be crawling with red. But it's not going to be. I don't want to say that I've tried not to think too far ahead, but I'm really kind of just looking at each practice. Do they get better? They do things to get them better. It's hard not to be excited about September 10th, but I'm trying not to be, to try to, not get all that. And, of course, it's Kansas City, so, that's the hard thing. You're going to see pretty much the same team you saw in January when he lost that playoff game. This team that Bill O'Brien is walking in that stadium with is going to be much different than that one. So, from that perspective, it's kind of like I'm curious. Probably more so than I'm excited. I mean, I will be excited, but I'm just curious. Like, okay, how do all these pieces go together at receiver? How does David Johnson look at running back? How does all that go together? Is Kansas City with a couple of big opt-outs and Laurent Duvernay-Tardif and Damian Williams, how does that impact what they can do and what they want to do offensively? So, I mean, I'm just excited, but I'm just really curious with a lot of questions. As every team has, and as every week 1 game is going to have, there are going to be more questions than answers at that point, probably.
Johnny, we were about a week away from the teams scrimmaging against each other. How much do you think that we'll be able to see, or how much more do you think it's going to help the players actually have a scrimmage as opposed to even these full padded practices?
Yeah, I mean, I think when they say scrimmage, most people hear scrimmage and they think, well, it's basically, football, but the coaches could be on the field kind of thing. And I think the scrimmaging is going to be more like yesterday. There won't be anybody taken to the ground. They're going to work the situations through with field goal and punt, and that's what they did yesterday. They would do a scrimmage and go up and down the field, and then if they got to a point where it was a special team situation, they would run that special team. They're like, all right, first punt. They would punt, then the next offensive unit would come out on the field. So the scrimmaging was more game-like, almost for the coaches and personnel changes and things like that, than it was full-on tackling, 100% live and tackling on kickoffs and all that kind of stuff. But there's really going to be nobody in this league, no team in this league is going to do a full-on scrimmage with tackling and all that going down to the ground. Now, goal line might be the only place you do it because there's just so many bodies down there that sometimes trying to hold yourself up, you get hurt that way. Goal line might be the only thing you do that way. But the scrimmages that will, arise in the future here for the Texans are going to be a lot like what we saw yesterday. And for some people, they're like, well, what's the difference in that and a practice? Well, there was more focus on the 11-on-11 stuff yesterday. There was no inside drill. There was no 7-on-7. There were no one-on-ones. They went from individual to 11-on-11 and then stayed that way the rest of the time. So that's the difference in quote-unquote scrimmage as opposed to what maybe people think of scrimmage. It's really highly like this, no full-on tackling. I'll work on
as
situations.
We watch the cornerbacks go through interception drills, catching the ball there, it's fun to see. It's a different group. There's 22, Garyon Conley, has not practiced the last few days, and then number 34, John Reed. We had a question from James and Katie. He wanted to know where he is on the depth chart. Well, he's going to challenge for some time there in the slot. Number 26 there is Vernon Hargraves. He's also a guy that you might see in the slot, might see outside, but what have you seen from Hargraves and from Reed specifically so far through camp, John?
Well, think about the good quickness numbers at the combine. John Reed, I think, had a sub-7 second 3-cone. He had a sub-4 second short shuttle. I mean, they both had that, and they're both built to be, I think, inside corners. I think John's a little thicker than Vernon is, but Vernon's a little taller, I think. And I think Tampa Bay wanted Vernon to be an outside corner. But, it comes to when you get a guy in your organization, it's like, wait a second, no, we really need to move him inside. Inside corners, nickel corners are
Okay, John, we appreciate the time. That is it for John Harris, having some technical difficulties. But, Johnny, thanks so much for talking with us. He was describing all the slot corner stuff that the Texans can look forward to in 2020. We got a lot of questions from fans. Let's do a little speed round. DP, you up for that? We got Clayton. He's asking, how is Albert Huggins playing? Done some nice things. He's made some plays early on in camp there on the interior of the defensive line. What have you seen?
I mean, it's hard to see the defensive linemen because they're way back in the corner of the field, but I think he's definitely making a shot for the roster right now. I think he's been here with us in camp before, so I think he's a little bit ahead of some of the rookies right now just in his understanding of the game.
Thomas from Utah, how's the D-line looking? They've looked solid. You're going to need to see a little bit more pressure on the quarterback in 2020 than you did at the end of last year, but so far so good, right?
Yeah, I think the D-line is coming together really nicely. You've got guys like Angelo Blacks and you got Brandon Dunn who have been here in the past and really understand the system well. Of course, you've got J.J. Watt, but I think with Ross Blacklock in there, you've got some new pieces that really are going to come together, and I think the D-line is gelling nicely. Anthony Weaver's still going to oversee them as well as being the defensive coordinator, so not a whole lot of change there for the D-line.
All right, number 21 is Bradley Roby there. He's going to get a chance to cover some of the better receivers on this team in about a week or so when the Texans scrimmage. Kevin wanted to know, will the Texans scrimmage another team? No, they will not be scrimmaging or playing against in the preseason anybody else. That is out the window because of COVID-19. No scrimmages. Derek wants to know, how do you think of Kahale Waring? How has Kahale Waring been doing? You got to keep up. Kevin's question is gone. Now we got Derek's. It's, what do you think of Kahale Waring? He's had a nice camp, but boy, that's a crowded spot. We heard from Bill O'Brien this morning. You've even got to worry about one of the undrafted rookies from James Madison. It's one of those things in Dylan Stapleton. Yeah, that guy's looked good too.
Sounds like a country singer's name, if you ask me.
It does look like Chris Stapleton is a good country singer.
Could be his
performed
relative
here outside of our hall here many times for the rodeo. But yeah, it's a crowded spot. But Kahale Waring's in the mix.
Vernon Hargrave's dancing out there. I mean, if this doesn't get you in the mood for Kansas City in less than 3 weeks, I don't know what does.
Yeah. Okay, the lightning round continues. Justin wants to know about Charles Omenihu. Do you think Charles Omenihu will have a bigger role this season? Absolutely. I mean, based on what we saw from him last year and the way he was progressing and what he's done this offseason, good things in store for number 94.
I've been very high on Charles Omenihu this offseason. I think heading into year 2, he's definitely made that jump from rookie to year 2. We saw how well he played on the field, and he made the most of his opportunities last year. He wasn't happy with that. He got to work this offseason. He's really worked on his technique and the fundamentals, and I think the coaching staff has been very impressed with what he has been able to do just heading into camp this year. He's definitely matured in year 1 to year 2, and I expect him to get after the quarterback when he's out there.
All right, good stuff, DP. You know, another good thing that you've done recently is an interview with a very interesting Texan, and that's number 58, who you can see right there. Peter Kalambayi plays linebacker both inside and outside, and this is all part of your Deep Slant.
Joining me today on the Deep Slant one-on-one presented by Xfinity, it's Peter Kalambayi, a.k.a. PK, straight off the practice field. And Peter, you got some extra work in on the field, and you came straight to do this interview. So how'd it go today out there? You look as fresh as a daisy. I would not be able to tell you've been out there for 3 hours.
Oh, it was a hot one out there. You know, the beginning of the practice is nice, but as the practice goes on, it gets a little warmer. Guys get a little tired. The cleats get a little sloshy, but it was a good one.
What are some of the things that you like to do after practice that you really want to fine-tune, that you feel like it's easier to do once practice is over?
I'm pretty new to the inside linebacker position, so I've been, just working on cleaner footwork. So maybe after practice, I might work with one of the younger coaches, or just by myself on some simple footwork. Nothing too exhausting because I've been running all practice, but just some cleaning up my footwork at inside linebackers.
Can I ask you about your profile picture on Instagram? You're holding a goat.
And that's actually not a goat. That's a kangaroo. When I was in Australia, Stanford played Rice in Australia in 2017. And I had the opportunity to hold a kangaroo as well as hang out with a koala one day. So I seized that opportunity. I got plenty of pictures.
I need to go back and relearn my animals. It totally looks like a goat to me, but that's a really cute baby.
It's a baby one. It does look like a goat in that picture.
Okay, well, thanks for making me feel better. I'm gonna go back and brush up on my animals. I think I would recognize a koala though if I saw one. Peter Kalambayi on the Deep Slant 101 presented by Xfinity. PK, always a pleasure, and best of luck.
Thanks.
Goats, kangaroos, what's the difference?
Looks like a goat. It still looks like a goat to me, but I'm glad I asked. There were a lot of topics I wanted to get into with Peter Kalambayi. Yeah. He speaks French. He talked about Trinidad, his native country, and how he goes back every summer. And boy, that just makes me want to take a vacation when he talks about the beaches there. But, the fact that he's moved from outside to inside, and he stays after practice, works on his footwork on the field, and in the offseason still worked on his pass rush moves with teammate Jacob Martin in his garage. I mean, I think the versatility that Peter Kalambayi brings, we can't overlook how valuable that's going to be, especially deep into the season. And, of course, third on special teams in tackles last year. He was tied for third, and he's been working on that as well, trying to get better.
Yeah, I mean, that's where he really made his money as far as being a special team standout. But you talk about the extra work he put in. You did that interview with him yesterday, and it was set to go at, X time. It was really 45 minutes to an hour after you were supposed to interview him because he was working and doing that extra, and we're fine with that. Hey, play great, get better at your job before you come talk to us. But yeah, that's what was going on.
Can I tell you, he also didn't even shower. He came straight off the field, knew he had to do an interview, and just sat down and started. I mean, I thought if you need a minute to compress yourself, go ahead. But he said, no, I know I had to do an interview.
Yeah, it's all good. It's Zoom. You can't smell him anyways.
Yeah,
so
can't say enough good things.
It works out. So Peter Kalambayi, a name to keep an eye on, a name to remember in 2020 as we move forward. All right, got some more questions from fans. Delvis has one that I get on Dear Drew quite a bit, and it's any talk of new uniforms. No. No, there are no new uniforms coming, no plans for that. I think the only variation you might see in the years to come, probably not, almost certainly not this year, is you might see white helmets. You might see a few games in the coming years per year with the Texans wearing white helmets, but you're not going to see a uniform change. Just not going to happen. I've talked with marketing folks about it, and yeah, that's not going to be something that comes to the fore. Matthew wants to know, who do you see being Watson's go-to receiver as we look at some kickoff coverage drills going on? As far as a go-to receiver, I mean, I would think it's Will Fuller. It's going to be spread around more so than it has been over the last few years with DeAndre Hopkins, who, he's all galaxy. He's one of the best pass catchers in the universe, so you're going to feed him the ball. I think it's going to get spread around a little bit more than it has been, though.
Yes.
But I do think if he stays healthy, Will Fuller's going to get the lion's share of those passes.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it may not be as go-to as it's been in the past when he had DeAndre Hopkins on the field, because I think there's so many weapons out there. He's always going to have a matchup that looks favorable to him, and that may not always be Will Fuller. I would expect opposing teams to try to double Will or put their best corner on Will, or maybe even a safety. But I think that's going to be different this year. I think that actually is better for him, because who knows who his go-to receiver is going to be. It's going to be hard to predict week to week who the top receiver is going to be for the Texans.
It sure will, and we really do appreciate all of you checking this out today. It's fun being here. It's the only way you're going to watch Texans training camp practice, and we're showing it to you live, and we're showing it to you, we've done that for about the past 30, 45 minutes. And it's not easy to coordinate all these things. It's not just DP, it's not just me. There's lots of folks. We've got Mitchell Moreland here in the studio. We've got Tyler Marcotte sort of putting out fires, getting things ready. I mean, he does a great job. We bust his chops quite a bit, but he's great at what he does. We also want to thank Jay McDevitt, Amanda Caffey, Tyler Suddarth, Connor Sungera, Nicholas Patterson, and John Harris, too, for chiming in.
It's like the Academy's over here. Drew's got a list of people to thank.
I want to make sure I don't forget anybody. So
if
I forgot you, I apologize, and I'll try to get you tomorrow. But thank you, most of all, to all of you for watching. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. We're here to give you the goods as much as we can, and we're all excited about the 2020 season. We will be back on Sunday. There's no practice tomorrow, but we will be here Sunday morning. So grab a cup of coffee with us, get some donuts maybe, cook some pancakes, some waffles, some eggs, whatever you like, and make sure the bacon's a little bit extra crispy. That's the way I like it. Probably the way you should like it. But you take care. We'll see you again next time. Until then, go Texans.